Mihai Vescario, thank you for joining me today for this interview, this informal academic discussion on elections.
Nice to meet you, and thank you for your invitation.
All right, well, thank you. So our topic today is going to kind of be elections in regions of conflict or tension. Since we are here in Moldova, and aside from all the recent elections and turmoil in politics, we're going to kind of look more generally at your experience and at the end a little bit about Transnistria and how that type of isolated regions can create complications in elections, perhaps. If you could begin, I know you have a very extensive educational background and professional background. Would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, yeah, I graduated in philosophy. I studied a little bit before computer science, then I moved to philosophy after computer science, and then I did a master's degree in philosophy, in psychology. I studied at Oxford, Sorbonne, and some other faculties. I got a master's degree in communications management in Australia, and a PhD with a thesis on Dostoevsky. So not very much related to elections, but my professional background, I started elections, running electoral campaigns since I've been running since 1992, when I ran the electoral campaign of the mayor of the second largest city in Romania. We won the election against the ex-communists, who were very powerful at that time, immediately after the revolution, and we were successful. Then I was working in a party. I was a member of the party, sort of an intellectual party, who we were fighting against the communists at that time. And then in '96, this party joined the Liberal Party, the actual Liberal Party, and I didn't want to join, and I became a sort of a political consultant. Nice. And I worked only for the right-wing parties, but in Romanian exception, right-wing are sort of liberal Democrats fighting for freedom. And
right. I mean, for any viewers that may be in the U.S.,
yes,
here it's kind of flipped. The right is exactly liberal, and the left might be considered more right or Russian.
Yes, but here left-wing would mean socialist and communists. Right-wing would mean people who fight for freedom of expression, free markets and things like that. Right. While the other ones, they don't care about free markets and democracy too much.
Okay, so you do have a very interesting background, and I think you have a lot of good stories in there.
By the way, about the elections, I ran the electoral campaigns, a lot of electoral campaigns in Romania, national and local level. Then I moved to Australia, where I won 2 electoral campaigns with Lord Mayor of Adelaide, the capital of South Australia. And then I worked for the Speaker of the government, not the government, of the House of the Parliament, Speaker of the Parliament in South Australia. I ran his electoral campaign as well, and so I worked for another electoral campaign.
And you even worked with the recently elected mayor, or is that correct?
Yeah, I worked in Republic of Moldova. I worked in 6 campaigns, and last year we won the elections for the Chisinau, the capital of Republic of Moldova. But he didn't become mayor because Plahotnik, the bad guy in the Republic of Moldova, cancelled the elections.
Right.
Yeah. But my last campaign was last year when I won it.
Okay. So let's actually come back to your some specific examples that you have, some case studies in a moment. If you don't mind, so you've been working in elections, on election campaigns a lot, and you have these degrees in philosophy. I was wondering, do you have like a philosophy to elections when you go into an election campaign? Is there some, a couple of themes that you have that you kind of go through?
Yeah, but above themes and whatever, there is a motivation. Motivation is, in one word, what motivates us and my team as freedom, fight for freedom.
Okay.
It might sound poetic and idealistic, but it's not. For example, in 2009, we were talking with an important guy here, the President of Parliament, who were fighting against the communists. Voronin was the leader of the Communist Party.
Yeah.
And they were into power. And this guy from another party contacted us, and we had a chat, and we asked for some fee, and they didn't have money. And they said, okay, you Romanians, who are sort of we are the big brothers in normal sense of the Moldavians. And this guy said, you Romanians, you never helped us really helped us.
Right.
You only talk about helping us. And I said, wait a moment, do you want a small company, PR company like us to help Republic of Moldova? And this guy said, why not? Then they said they don't have the money. We went back, but I kept thinking of what he said, that we, a small company, which were 4 or 5 people, we might help these guys. And I said to my team, okay, I go there, even if they don't have money to pay. Who is coming with me? And everyone came, and we fought against the communists.
Very nice.
This was 2009.
It's
so and then we did a lot of time this. We worked for free because even last campaign of last year, they didn't have money to pay us. They paid just some expenses, so we came to help them.
Right. It sounds like you have an altruistic spirit running through your election campaign motivation.
Yeah, we tell people, candidates, we tell to our candidates to do and to say what, this is our philosophy. We tell them to do and to say what we would do, say if we were in those positions.
Right.
So we never tell them to say lies or to say something that is not real. Because I was in a party for 6 years. I know how it works, local and high political level, and I know I think I know what we should do. So I keep telling to my candidates what I would do if I was in their position. I don't try to do PR or things like that. I just try to. I read in a PR book. I read a guy was saying, "Oh, I have an extraordinary new gimmick now. Let's tell the truth." So this is my secret. I try to tell the truth.
Right. Promote genuine, genuine messaging.
Which in politics is something that differentiates you.
Right. Yeah.
So that's the way in which I try to make the difference.
Very nice. I like that. That's okay. So we kind of have a gist of what your philosophy behind working in elections is: promote genuine leadership, so to speak.
Yes. And to have a very strong program. What do you want to do if you will be in that position? What are you going to do? People want not only to talk and talk and talk. They want real, concrete measures. And first of all, they want determination. They don't listen to you too much. They want to see that you have a program, that they want to see that you, but more important, they want to see that you are determined to win and to do something for them, to improve their lives. If you are not determined, you are not going to win. It doesn't matter the program. A recent election that just ended its second ballot actually, this Sunday in Romania, presidential election, the candidate I supported, I worked a little bit for him, he got to the 3rd position, but his problem was that he didn't transmit that determination, that he will arrive there, he will get the power, and he will do something really for the people.
He wasn't selling his 5-point plan hard enough?
He had a good plan, but he was not. He didn't send the message from his behavior and from his way of saying the things, not what he was saying. So it didn't appear that he is determined and he has a great vision. Basically, he didn't have charisma, and you would not have followed him if he was a leader. And that's the main problem with politicians. It doesn't matter that much what they say, but the way they say it and the way they inspire. You can inspire someone that they will do something. And in Trump, for example, this was his secret. He had this determination, and he had some themes, and he worked on them, and he kept them, and everyone was criticizing him, and he knew that he was going to win. And he was convinced that he was going to win. And he won because he kept the line, and people saw, his voters saw him like a potential guy who would do something for them.
Right.
And interestingly enough, I'm not a Trump fan, but
well, and not to date this video, but his impeachment court trials, impeachment trials just started today.
Yes, yes, I know. But
yeah.
however, what I noticed at Trump, that he had some very good themes, and interestingly enough, he's trying to apply them now. He's trying to solve the problems. For example, the problem with China, with the war and all. So he's trying to take one by one like a business, and he's doing a little bit, moving the things there.
Yeah.
Which some other politicians are not doing. So people in the election, they knew that he was going to do something about those issues. That is interesting.
Right. He stuck to his guns, to his point. His point.
Yes, but after the election,
China
he didn't forget about these, and he tried to do something.
Yeah.
Most of politicians forget about what they talk about,
and they go their own path after election.
While he goes back a little bit and he tries to solve the issues. I don't know if he solves them. Maybe he increases the problem, I don't know, but at least he tries to do something. So that's what I try to convince my candidates, that they have to have a plan for why do they come in the election. It's not like most of them, they say, oh, let's win the election and we'll see after that. No, you have to tell people, to all people, what you're going to do when you will win the election. And in the elections we try, this is another point, we try to address to all our publics, different targets, different messages with social media now and Google and everything we target separately. So this is another issue and technical issue of how we do our electoral campaigns.
Okay, so yeah, like on the point of social media, when you are trying to appeal to a multicultural audience, which I think is really unique here in Moldova, because this is a truly, I mean, there are large populations of separate cultures that, to a certain extent, I mean, everybody interacts.
Yes.
But there are lines in the sand, kind of. I mean, so do you have an example? I know you recently, you've worked on a couple of elections here, and you're beginning a new election, kind of, I believe, in the south of Moldova. So how do you use social media and other tools to address kind of these cross-cultural...
Some preliminary considerations before this. A few things about Moldova. Moldova is immediately at the border of Europe. It was part of Romania, but it's at the border. And behind, after that, is Russia and Ukraine, but Russia and whatever. So it's exactly at the cross point of east, west, south, and everything. All these influences intersect here.
This is one reason why my research is focused on this region.
So you have the Russians, you have the Romanians, you have the Ukrainians, you have in south the Turks and Tatars and whatever. So you have everything, Orient, Occident, everything meets here. And the same is with all the secret services structures. All they meet here and they fight here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so everyone is fighting here. All the televisions, all the mass media, all the political consultants are coming here. So from all these parts of the world. So everyone is, that's why it's so interesting here. The dynamics is incredible.
Yeah.
So, okay, you have these different populations. You have to address all of them. They are populations by different populations. They speak different languages. They have different regions. That in some regions you have more Ukrainians, in some you have Turks and Russians and whatever. In Chisinau you have all of them together.
Yes.
Particularly, you can divide them and localize them by areas. For example, in the suburbs are more Romanians. In the center, more Russians. And so you have to take into account all these things.
Right.
So you have to address, for example, all our political materials in all my campaigns here in Moldova, they were in 2 languages at least.
Okay.
In Russians and in Romanian.
And what would have been the third?
Third, I think we did some materials sometimes in Gagauzia, what the language they speak.
Turkish, maybe?
Something.
A little bit?
I think we did in one of them, and it was quite difficult. But anyway, 2 languages is a lot.
Yeah, I mean, everything here is in 2 languages.
Yes, yes, but to make a newspaper, 8 pages in 2 languages is not a simple thing.
It's 2 newspapers.
Yeah, so, but to make a 16 pages brochure in 2 languages is quite complicated. So we did, and all the advertising, we do it in Romania, and videos and audio, Romanian and Russian, all the time. You have different channels, TV channels, specific for the target. On internet is much simpler, but you have to take into account, for example, that you are selecting to target those who have set up in the Russian language their computer, but a lot of them are Romanians as well, because the software in Russian software is from the Russian market is easier to take it here, to pirate.
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 So you're saying, there's 2 points I wanted to hit on there real quick. So you address targeted audiences through the languages their software uses?
Oh yeah, if you have Windows and set up the Russian language on your Windows computer, then you're quite likely that you are part of Russian minority. But we found out through studies as well, but we found out that a lot of Moldavians, Romanians speakers, they set up their computers on Russian language because they have Windows, Microsoft Windows or whatever pirated is easier from Russia, so their computers are in Russian.
Well, this is curious because I mean, on my computer, I am learning Russian and I have a Russian keyboard, so sometimes I will switch my computer to type in Russian or something. I wonder if I'm being targeted.
Yes, but however, when you switch is not a problem. If the entire operating system is in Russian,
the entire operating system.
Yeah, the entire operating, not when you write.
Yeah.
So they read what's your main operating system, in what language is your main operating system, and they target you. So we know that if we want to target Russians, we have to target those who have their computer set up on a Russian language. A Russian would not set up for sure their computer in Romania.
Right.
The vice versa is a proportion you have to take into account.
More software comes from Russia.
Yes. But so you have to take into account all these things. So definitely you target multicultural. They have different issues, different problems, different solutions, and we have to take them into account. And when we address, for example, we conducted some surveys last year, and we noticed that somewhere 3-4% of our voters were from Russian side. So I was surprised. I didn't believe that the Russians would vote for a Moldavian candidate. But I saw the survey.
Russian speakers.
Russian speakers, yes. Russian speakers, Russian minority. So they were voting for our candidate. So I admitted the suggestion from the staff, from the local staff, that we have to address the campaign to the Russian public as well, and we did this.
And that was a successful campaign?
Yes, because we are definitely sure, and we had some surveys as well after that, there were quite a significant proportion of our voters, 4 or 5%, they were Russian, from Russian minority. And our contra candidate in the second ballot was from the Russian minority. So part of his electors voted for us. And the difference was 4 or 5%.
Yeah,
so if those, maybe we're not 4, maybe we're 3, but 2 or 3% of the Russians who voted for us, if they had gone the other way, would have lost.
Okay.
So it was important to address the Russian public.
It's an interesting maneuver there. Kind of turned out to work in your favor.
And that's a lot more amplified if you think of when you have elections in regions. In South, you have Gagauzia, different minority.
A larger Russian-speaking population than here.
Yeah,
maybe
Russian, and they have all sorts of influences from. So they vote totally different there, and they have different approaches. There, it's more likely that you are not going to be successful. But you have to address the population to get some results, to count for the national level.
Okay, you did touch on one other topic that I wanted to ask you about, and that was TV advertising. I know that Moldova is unique, that they have like this a law that dictates the percentage of political campaign or Romanian and Russian-speaking political, or is it all material? Are you familiar with that law?
No, I don't know about what they.
It hasn't affected your campaigns.
Oblige you to do advertising in both language or what?
Right. Well, I just know that I think in the Moldovan constitution, or in the early days of Moldova in the 90s, there was a law that was implemented that regulated that a certain amount of the television had to be in the national language.
Yes, no, it doesn't apply to the campaign. You can do your entire campaign in Romania, you can do it in Russian, it doesn't matter. Okay. It's up to you. But you have to target both publics, as I said before, and we were doing this in both languages because we knew that we have to target it and to gain votes, to earn votes. And we did this, but not because it was a regulation. There is an interesting regulation, however. nobody from, and it's a new regulation, relatively new, 7, maybe 9 years or something like this. In order to decrease the influence of Putin in the electoral campaigns, Putin used to come here or to send some messages, vote this guy.
Right. Big time in Transnistria, I believe.
They introduced a law. In the electoral campaigns, no one from abroad, a foreign official, is not allowed to be involved in the electoral campaigns.
Right.
So you're not allowed now to bring a TV spot and say, Putin says, vote this guy, as it used to happen before. Mm-hmm. So you're not allowed to use these sort of things.
So I have heard that there are like election ballots. I believe I was talking with somebody last time I was here, last winter, and there were like Russian ballot boxes here. I could be mistaken, but there was but they were saying that even they're using the example that even U.S. people can vote at the embassy here, for their election campaigns and stuff like that. And but I'm not sure to what extent that may have happened. Or are you familiar with those tactics?
Yes, yes. What happened here in the general elections, not the local elections that much, but in general election, I heard that they were bringing a lot of people from Transnistria.
They're busing people in.
Yes, busing and voting to vote here in Moldova.
And maybe been paid. I heard that
yes,
perhaps there are some people.
Always they get paid.
I mean, not a lot, but
no,
some
not
incentive.
A lot, but yes, but they would bring, and I understood that it was a large scale. It used to be before a larger scale, but now. There are stricter and stricter rules, so it's more difficult to do this. But in some areas of Moldova, you can do it probably. The involvement of foreign forces, it's quite high here. Mm-hmm. Romanian teams are coming here officially or unofficially, private companies or whatever. Russian companies are working for the Russian side, and big companies are coming here, and quite good companies in the work. It's a big fight, not only between the candidates, but between teams, political teams as well.
It's kind of like Romania, Russia, and even the EU as an organization. And
yes, they have NGOs and a lot of people who try to, but the Europeans are more politically correct, and they try to influence with good things, but they don't work that much here. Okay. It's more important to do grass work, not.
Ever since $1 billion went missing, right? It's kind of been an uneasy relationship.
Yeah. We have a saying here: the Europeans are quite slow. Even though lately, in the last year and a half, 2 years, they became more serious. They take Moldova more seriously, and they get involved more seriously. It's enough to say that recently they allocated some funds, something like 30 million euros for Moldova.
Right.
And this sort of things are helping a lot.
Okay. Well, I don't want to keep it for too long, so let's transition to the next section here on addressing isolated regions. So in election, and through your election philosophy and some tactics that you're familiar with, if you were trying to, and even broadly, we've talked about broadly addressing multicultural populations, but what if you're looking at a population like Transnistria? I mean, if in some future campaign you're trying to run a national electoral campaign and you want to try to draw in a population from Transnistria, do you see some way of crossing kind of that hard cultural boundary?
There are complex factors in those regions, let's say isolated regions.
Or administrative boundaries too, because I know there's some administrative issues there.
For example, we have here in Moldova, we have a kind of this situation like in Orhei. In Orhei, where Shor is the candidate, a political candidate in Orhei. Yes, they have. He is like a king there. Okay. And it's like in Transnistria, it's very difficult to penetrate with any sort of message.
Right.
Because the population there is quite isolated. Even if they have access to some information, all the resources are going through these people. Shor here in Orhei, or the leaders of Transnistria. So they isolate the country. Informationally, it's difficult to isolate it, but it's not enough. If they have access through internet to some information, it's not enough. Everything else is the funds, the salaries, pensions, everything comes through their channels. And once you direct everything, the funds for schools, for hospitals, salaries, public institutions or whatever, they have a lot of resources at their disposition, and they manage to manipulate people, and they would vote exactly as they dictate, freely in a way. So it's not that like in Russia. Most of people they really voted freely for Putin.
Yeah.
They were not obliged, but he knows how to manipulate people, and when you have these resources, it's easy to do it. That's not democracy. In Transnistria, we don't have democracy. If you are sort of dictator like this, it's very easy to manipulate people, particularly when you have a population which is, I don't know if I have, it's a correct term, dislocated. A lot of people left the country. They went to
like
Europe, diasporas and whatever. And you have what is left there is not educated, not informed, really to react immediately to basic things. And they are more interested in basic things and not in principle, not in freedom and things like that. You give them a small salary, you give them something to eat. And
they're content.
Yes, and they're content, and they get their votes. And that's the situation. And now we have this example in Turkish. They had a big increase in economy and in whatever, in freedom, and then Erdogan came and everything fall apart. And now they are waking up because you have a core there of people who know the true principles and values. But in regions like Transnistria, you don't have any islands of freedom and the communities that they know what it means to be free and to be informed and educated. So you don't have the critical level of this sort of people to make a move or to change. So it's practically like dead regions, or no man's land.
No man's land. So
Yeah.
Very little. So I mean, your use of social media. I mean, is there some way? I mean, I'm not trying to like think of like revolution theory or start like a movement, but I mean, if you're like trying to influence that type of population, is there? I mean,
It's no effect. No
it's
effect.
It's just
No,
that.
no, because the critical people, the people who, the young people, active people, they left the country.
Okay.
So whenever it happens something on social media and it explodes, you know, we see the revolutions generated by social media recently, and including in Romania, when they changed the legislation, the laws in justice, and they tried to reduce the laws regarding the corruption. Everything happened on social media, and everyone went out. Hundreds of thousands of people went out with the help of social media. But in Romania, for example, we still have people who subscribe and who defend these values, and they know what these values mean. While in a small region like Transnistria, is not a country, it's a region.
Right.
Small regions where
Autonomous
population left,
region, yeah.
population left, you don't have the nucleus, the people who can get together and you can be influenced by social media and to create a sort of a revolution.
Well, how about Gagauzia? Just to kind of branch
Gagauzia
out?
is sort of
because
the same.
but they're not as autonomous. I mean, they don't have they don't have border guards like Transnistria does.
No. But it's like sort of like in Romania, we have two counties with the Magyar population, Hungarian population, and they are majority in that regions, like in Gagauzia. They have their own laws, principles, and things like that, and they feel that they are a minority within a country, and the minorities within a country, they have different rules and they listen to different channels. Even if you come with social media, they would not believe you, because they would believe their own people, their own leaders, and they have this complex of not inferiority, complex of being a minority in a different country. Right. And you have to be with your friends and your community. So they find trust in their community, and they will not trust someone from outside.
But they do openly participate in elections.
Yes,
Moldovan elections.
Yes, but they vote their candidates and they go for their candidates, like exactly like in Romania. The Magyar population votes the Magyar. It doesn't matter if it is corrupted, and they are most some of the most corrupt politicians are the Magyar politicians. They still vote for them. It doesn't matter.
Right. And Gagauzia is interesting because I think Erdogan has even visited Gagauzia and like has funded the building of a library. So he encourages like that connection back to their there's many theories I think from where the Gagauz come from, and he tries to make that connection though.
You always try to penetrate in those sort of regions, and you elect some candidates there that they are from their community, and but generally speaking, we haven't been successful in any of these regions to have a real success.
So in these areas, you would say that they are just strongly localized.
Yes,
it's like it's hard to breach
exactly like
that.
in Romania, in 2 regions, 2 counties, nobody has ever done something there.
Okay.
They vote for them and for their candidates, and it's impossible to penetrate.
So I just want to reiterate this before we transition to the last little part here of the interview. But so you're saying even with advances in social media, being able to target specific language programming systems, these new advancements in electoral practices, it's still extremely difficult to take some of these steps.
There are some gains. You can gain some votes, but very little. Because if you look, I know very well the Romanian system, the Magyar Hungarian minority, they almost all the time get the same results. So it doesn't matter that you influence them, you target them with different messages. The result is almost the same. They are, I don't know, 1.8 million or something like this. It's 7%, 10% of the population, 7%, and they always get to the same result. So it doesn't matter what candidates they have, how you try to influence them, it's the same. So the same is with Gagauzia. We try to penetrate their messages with better candidates. It doesn't really matter.
Have you tried to, and I won't carry on for this for too long here, but have you tried to like adopt their messaging system? I mean, I've taken you took some psychology, I've taken a little bit of psychology, like intergroup contact theory.
Yes, we try to get candidates from Gagauzia who speak their language, who are from their community, but they are obviously more liberal. More like Democrats. And they don't have any success because they would follow the tradition and they follow the guys that they trust. And
a sense of loyalty to their local leaders.
Yes, and it's similar like in Romania. The Magyar, they had a division there. A few years ago, some of the politicians split and they created a new party. But in the end, that party disappeared. It didn't have any success. So people are very traditional, minorities are very traditional. It's very difficult to change something within a minority abruptly. Maybe in time you can change something. But if you go there with messages, with social media, and you think that you would disrupt that community and change it from one path to a different path, that's impossible.
Okay.
You can do probably some changes. Even people from there, that minority, they couldn't change the things. So that's the example I talked just now in Romania. Their own community split it, and they went. They created a new party, and it didn't have success. And they were quite okay, those people. Okay. And they were from within, from that community. Didn't have success.
Right, okay, so this is an interesting topic for me, and in preparation for this I was doing some research on voting theory and like how, so I was looking at kind of how alliances occur when you have like 5 people in a race, and just like the way candidates merge and certain leaders come out. Have you, when you choose a candidate and you want them to be successful, I mean how important is the candidate that you choose? I mean, when you pick a candidate, do you know who they're immediately going to appeal to and not? I mean, so you'll know that they won't be able to reach out to like the Gagauzes or something because of,
we were as a sort of a company or consultants, not company. Like as a consultants, we don't have very often the chance to pick up the candidates. They hire us.
They pick you. You don't pick them.
Yes. So so everything is set up already. We don't have any. However. When I was in the party, we had the opportunity to pick up a candidate for the Lord Mayor of Iași, second largest city.
Right.
And we saw him and they said this would be a good candidate for mayor. And he won the elections. But generally, recently these elections that just first ballot ended this Sunday, the candidate of the party I supported, USR, Unions Save Romania, so he got the third position, and it was a quite big debate who is going to be the candidate. In the end, it was the president of the party, but he didn't have the charisma and to send the message and to convince people to vote for him.
Right.
And they got a very good result in the European election 6 months ago, and now they got a very bad result. It's true that a lot of voters went to the actual president, who did a quite okay job. So, but still, the result was quite bad. So the problem was with the candidate. He had some fault.
Okay.
Nobody, in my belief, nobody would have went in the second ballot. Doesn't matter what candidate it would have been. The president, for sure, he got a very big result, and second candidate was from the left-wing side. So in Romania, we don't have sufficient right-wing people to have two candidates from the same side. So I said from the beginning that the candidate, the former prime minister, a woman, would be in the second ballot. So, but coming back to the issue of candidate, this candidate was wrongly picked up within the party. There was another candidate better who would have got a better result, but we as a consultant, we very rarely we have the possibility, only for some small mayors to pick up some mayors. We make some opinion polls, and we said choose this guy or this guy. But for big things, we don't have any option. But obviously, the first thing we do, we scan the candidate and we say what are the good points and bad points, and we start from there and move forward to prepare the strategy and run the campaign.
Okay, so yeah, it's a combination of factors that come together when a candidate is picked and then promoted.
Yes, and you try to solve the problem. For example, a very concrete case, last year with our candidate, everyone, we made a sort of opinion poll and analysis, and they were saying something simple. He doesn't have experience in administration, he doesn't have a program, he doesn't have a team. Why would we vote for him?
Right.
And we noticed that these are the weak points of our candidate, and we try to overcome them. So we hired 3 experts to write a program for a program and for running for the position of mayor. So to run a city, what would you do if you were the mayor of the city? So we have something like 200 pages, a program, big program, to all the themes and everything. And then from there we came down to 32 pages. So, and then we chose 5 guys from his team, and on each domain we had an expert for each domain, and we had this big launch. The candidate presented his program and what he wants to do for the city, and it was a big launch with a lot of advertising after that, and the candidate showed the people that he knows what he has to do. And after that, I couldn't find even a comment on Facebook that he doesn't have a program, he doesn't have experience, and he doesn't have a team.
Right.
So we closed the issue, which was quite good.
Yeah. All right. Well, to change the topic just a little bit here at the end, I know you have a book coming out, and I looked at your background, and I noticed that you've written on Tarkovsky's philosophy of love in the past.
Yeah.
Could you explain that a little bit, and then if you want to self-promote your book?
Yeah, a few years ago I wrote a book about the Russian filmmaker Andrei Tarkovsky. He's quite famous in some communities, and I like him very much. The title of the book is In Love with Tarkovsky. And why I wrote this book is during the communist regime and Ceausescu regime, you didn't have TV, only 2 hours per day, no TV stations, only 2 official TV radio stations, and you didn't have much to do. So the only thing we were doing, no internet, so what we were doing at that time was reading books, and a lot of people were reading books. And I read a lot of books, and from time to time we were watching good movies, because on TV we didn't have much movies, not many movies. So from time to time on cinema hall where these movies of Andrei Tarkovsky, but very rarely. So I saw them, and basically what I try to explain in my book, that I survived during the communist regime, but probably not only in commas, probably in real sense. I survived because I survived through culture. Watching good movies like Tarkovsky, listening to classical music, reading a lot of books.
Were you in Bucharest at this time?
No, in Iași, in the second largest city. So that was the way we survived through. We went through the communist regime, through the Gulag, trying to survive through culture. And this is what my book is about. And now next week I have the launch of a second book. It's a novel, but it has a lot of references to Dostoevsky. I integrated Dostoevsky quotes in this book, which is sort of autobiographical.
All right, very nice. I'll have to try to pick up a copy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Mihai, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to meet with me this evening. And this is a very interesting conversation.
No, I thank you for inviting me to help you with your PhD.
Well, I hope we're able to speak more in the future.
My top philosophy is people will progress only through education.
Absolutely. I am also a huge fan of education. It is a great path forward, I think. Okay, thank you.